Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. Today we have education and technology today, which is kind of great. We have three great speakers today. We have Emmanuel, Spencer, and Jody. So first we're going to hear from Emmanuel on what is online learning in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. Then we have Spencer for command and control and challenge-based learning. Why a dashboard is indispensable. I guess that will be the key. And then we have correlation of online application to the effectiveness of feedback across design disciplines. That's a question that I have, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Just some ground rules. Please don't make questions during the presentation. Let's save them for the end. And Manuel,
good to
go.
go.
Yours. Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Emmanuel Duplat. I'm a professor at the Faculty of Education, University of Ottawa. And so I work a lot in teacher education programs, all kinds of programs. And my research are in part about instructional design. Can you hear me well? Yeah. You can come more closer if you want, because there is small graphics at the end, so don't hesitate to come. Move. Okay, so I'm French from France, so sorry for my English. You can ask questions, pronunciation, but so I will present you the case of a course, a connectivist course. Have you heard about connectivism? Nobody? Siemens and Downs at Athabasca University, they have developed kind of MOOC. We will see that in detail, and they associate that with a learning theory connectivism. So I will talk about that, a connectivism module into a in-service teacher education program. And we will see the consequences. So let's start with this guy, Santa. So you think I'm crazy, but there is a purpose of that. For me, it's really important to speak about Santa Claus to start, because it's the archetype of the separation in our society of the production and the consummation. You know, it's magic. You order something, it's under your tree, and you have your new iPhone, and you don't have to think about the design, about the production, how it's made. You just order and it appears like that. Okay, so it's the symbol of the separation of the production and the consumption. And it's a symbol of all the industrial system, the massification and all the stuff about the production of the goods in our society. And the school system is based on that, and it's made to provide workers in the industrial system from the beginning. So now that's why we speak about the fourth industrial revolution. Let's see what it means. So I wanted to start with Santa Claus, because we will discuss about Santa Claus later. My main hypothesis is all work together with interconnection. The technology and the transformation of the technology, the learning theory were connected with the technology and the system of production consumption in the society. And it all work together and progress together. So I will make a short story. So first revolution, the steam machine, revolution of transportation. And actually, before that, we did consume what we did produce. But after that, we could start to consume other production from other place. And to permit that, we had to develop a school system, an educational system. It was in United States, the best system at this step, and to provide people for this mechanization of the production. Second revolution, you miss Santa Claus. Too bad. I don't start again. You will not understand at the end. Never mind. Second industrial revolution, the electricity, chemistry, and it was the massification of the production. And connected to that, I try to associate the behaviorist and the learning machine. How they say Skinner. Are you familiar with that? So it was really well adapted to this shift of thinking. And we went to a massification of the production. Third revolution, the computer in the beginning of the 50s with von Neumann. And it was the automatization of the production with the constructivism and the social constructivism. And we are still in there. And what is interesting is our educational system is still connected to these two last revolution. If you think about the school, it's organized like the factory, actually. You ring the bell, you go to it, you know, you are always assessed by the teacher. You have only one size fit all. The products are organized by year of fabrication. The children, you know, all is connected, you know, to the product, to the industrial system. And we have the fourth revolution, but nobody knows exactly what it is. We know there is 3D printing, there is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, there is lots of new artifacts, but we don't know if it's still a revolution or how it affects the system, the educational system. But what we know in the literature is the skills associated to the fourth revolution, and we can see in lots of different literature. I try to make a list of the skills. So we have we have the problem solving, algorithmic, creativity, transdisciplinarity, critical thinking, meta learning, social skills, communication, blah, blah. But the problem is to define a curriculum for this kind of competencies all the time, because there is no curriculum, you know. I remember a student of mine, he works for the Ministry of Education and say, oh, I'm in charge to develop the curriculum of critical thinking. Really? From the ministry? So it's really difficult to think in our industrial system how to develop this kind of skills. And there is no method to develop this kind of skills and no evaluation, no assessment. It's really difficult. So let's see the theory on online learning. So online learning is really connected to the industrial production. So you see this draw from the 1880 or 1882. It was connected to the massification. It's a picture from this year. Massification, industrialization, and were always associated to distance. And all the online learning, and particularly during COVID, I don't know if you had some experience about online learning, and now after the COVID, you say, oh, it doesn't work, you know, it's so impersonal, you know, because it's industrialized, full industrialized. It's all based on the same principle from software design, actually, and software production. The design, and after the teaching, actually, online. So you have all the theory about online, they have separate always the two parts, the content and the communication, the production of the content, and after the discussion with the student around this content. So you have the most famous Open University at Athabasca, TELUC in Canada. And they have all the same principle. If you look the theory, I don't go deep into the theory, but the transactional distance, that's the same. They separate communication, content, inquiry-based learning also, TPAC, some air, everybody in all the theory, they separate. BOSS, which is a problem, we have a limitation for our skills, and the 4IR skills or 21st century skills. They don't consider the context of learning. And this is all about standardization. So there is only one curriculum, one way to assess the students, and this is always the same. We have another theory, the connectivism. I present it a little bit like the best, but nobody knows what it is exactly. Connectivism from Siemens. And connectivism, to if I can resume that, it's to put more value in the connection than in the content. It's more important to know how to localize the knowledge than to memorize the knowledge. So no matter if it's a content, the people, you have I have also a slide about that. I cannot, it's really complex to explain. Lots of criticism about the connectivism. Some say it's not really a theory because it doesn't explain learning, you know, it's just you put people together and in the network and they go and this is really interesting, but it's really difficult to put that in a credit system in a university with assessment, with accreditation in the context of teacher education. So how can we do that? I've tried that in a course. So my research question, okay. Yeah, there is no, with the connectivism, there is no curriculum, no assessment, and this is never into the classroom or into the credit system. So my research question, how can we create an online module which permit to develop 4IR skills? My hypothesis to reconnect the student with the design and the production of the learning experience, not only the consumption, to giving the students the key of the curriculum and the assessment, and so to use a kind of connectivist instruction. Let's see what I mean. So we had, I compared two courses, teacher education, about technological education, one in 2017, online, they are full online both, with 13 students and with no connectivism module, and another in 2021 online with the same public, but with a module, a connectivist module. So I just compared the evaluation of the course from the student and the commentary. So the design, so it's in French. So before that, they have to write a scenario of a resource, and they have to develop a resource, you know, adapted to their curriculum for the children. And it was really prescriptive. In the new module, which called a maker project, they had to define they had to work in teams, to design the team. They had to define a research topic. They had to develop a video, 10 minutes video about this topic to present to the others, and they had to assess their video and the video of the others. That's all, no more, not more, you know? So that's what we did. And what I did, I proposed, so this initial situation without any more information, and I provided a guidage, you know, so I proposed research method and tool. I had to meet every group every week, and I've made feedback of the group, of each group, to all the group every week by email or video. And it was a lot about reassuring the students, because it was really confusing for them, you know. The previous presentation was about teacher, we had an intervention about teacher education. This is really, how can I say, step-by-step way of teaching. So it was really confusing for them. Most of my role was to reassuring them, do you are on a good track, providing some resource and tool, and repeating, I'm not responsible of the evaluation. But what do you want? I don't want nothing. What your friends want, because they will evaluate you, not me. So it was really my intervention in this module. The result, we have here the stimulation aspect of how it was stimulating, and the quality of subject communication. And what you see, there is a kind of polarization. So the people were positive in blue, and they were very positive at the end in the new version of the course. But we have two participants, actually it's 3.85%. It's two participants, neutral or negative. I want to keep this in mind. I will come back with these two participants. And the same for the quality of subject communication. What they say in the comment, 22 comments from 22 students, and 20 were positive and 2 were negative. So you can connect with these two people in the graphic. So 2 times they mentioned I was out of my zone of my comfort zone. It was really really difficult. It was really stimulating, but I was out of my comfort zone. The course, I have abandoned the old traditional method, another pedagogical side that I had in me, and another way of seeing teaching. The course was extremely relevant to the reality on the classroom because it was made with their word. It trained ourselves to learn how to learn how to learn. And the last one is more critical for the rest of the program. The other course, they ask us to rewrite the information which have been presented, and to the delivery of this course and the activities we participated were stimulating, and for the first time made me think and reflect. That's one case. About the works they have to provide, and particularly the module 2, we have the same polarization here. And if you see here, for the connectivist module requests more work from the students. So the comment, I liked the freedom given for work. I really like the open-ended character of the production to be accomplished. The avant-garde approach to the work. It was extremely stimulating and led to a lot of deep reflection question. This is never the same student, huh? It's from a different student. Let's go to the 2 negative comments I had from the 2. Maybe I cannot connect that to the 2 people in the graphics, but it's basically the same, probably. Difficulties completing assignment for this course. Work instruction can be clearer. Comments could have more details. So, yeah, it's right. The last one is awful for me, but the instruction for the works were confusing, and the teacher's explanations were even more. He asked us to do what we want for the works. There was no waiting. In general, I have nothing learned in this course. So they missed totally the connected. We can say that, but only 2. The other were quite more positive, you see. So the discussion, what is learned? So we have tried to enrich a teacher training credited course with a connectivist module. The freedom of direction permit a contextualization of the knowledge, because they do that with their word. They present that to the other students who are also teachers, and they do that better than me, actually, because they know the context more than me in jail in the university. So it permits that, and it permits a better stimulation and a relevant teaching, but more demanding in terms of workload. It's really more important. And you have to be really ready for this kind of instruction. Formulating the research question and developing the video developed problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, meta learning, and online collaboration. But this type of teaching is not for all students, as some need more direction. And I can speak about, because I taught them, so I know what they are, the 2. And there is a cultural background also into that. They are international students, and this is all an adaptation for the American system of education. And I provide that, and they don't understand what is it well. This decentralized approach of learning questions our educational system. Customer becomes a producer, and learner becomes his own teacher. guided by the curriculum of his curiosity and self-assessment. The limitation, we need now quantitative data. We need experimentation in other fields because teachers are already open to new pedagogy. They know about pedagogy, but in another field without maybe in science or no human sciences, but could be interesting to see what happened and how we can bring this kind of instruction. So more research on group self-assessment and peer assessment, because it's the really interesting part. And design an educational system compatible could be great. So my final message, so do not believe in the educational Santa Claus anymore. Thank you.
Great time.
I don't know. Okay, good.
Thank you very much. I think everybody enjoyed this presentation. And I think we all can relate to whenever you give an open-ended question, you get where are the instructions. So luckily I have instructions today. So I think I'm gonna call Spencer so he can go into detail about command and control, and a dashboard is indispensable.
Okay, thank you. Right, hi everybody. There is a French connection here, actually. Yeah, because I'm actually here from France, as you can tell by the accent. I was a history teacher in the UK in a secondary school, but I live in France now, near Nantes, and I teach in an engineering school. I'm an English teacher in an engineering school in Nantes. I've recently enrolled on a PhD, or to do a PhD, at the University of Rennes 2, which is about 100 kilometers north of Nantes in northwestern France. So now you're clear about the geography, in case you were wondering. Voila, so I'm here today to talk to you about command and control in challenge-based learning, why a dashboard is indispensable. So without further ado, actually, what I ought to tell you actually about, you perhaps know this about Rennes 2. Rennes 2 University is an absolute hotbed of militant and left-wing politics, and you've probably seen the recent protests in France on the news. At Rennes 2, they were literally barricading some of the buildings at the university, which led, unfortunately, to King Charles not being able to come to France to meet King Macron at the Palace of Versailles, which was obviously very upsetting for me personally. Yeah, but at least I'll be able to watch the coronation on May the 6th. That should soothe me a bit. But anyway, that's enough about politics and King Charles for the moment. Right. So yeah, let's just talk about the context of this project. As we know, virtual exchanges are now mainstream. That trend was further accelerated by the COVID pandemic, as we well know. At the University of Rennes 2, there's a dual requirement of promoting both distance learning and also international collaboration as part of the internationalization at home policy at the University of Rennes 2. Obviously, during COVID, the Erasmus program in Europe, whereby students could go to other European countries for a period of time during their studies, that obviously wasn't possible during COVID. So yeah, there has been an attempt to offer an international experience at home without the students needing to go abroad. So yeah, this is very much being promoted at the University of Rennes 2 at the moment, internationalization at home. The other thing that's being promoted at Rennes 2 is language for specific purposes, and this project very much focuses on language for specific purposes. The project itself is referred to as the Virtual Environmental Challenge. There's also a French version of the project, which is Défi Environnemental Virtuel, DEV. It's targeted principally at master students, master didactique des langues. These are language didactic students who are training to be language teachers of French and English. And their role is as teachers. I'll say a bit more about teachers in a minute. As part of the challenge, as part of the project, they follow a MOOC if they're doing the English version, or a YouTube channel if they're doing the French version. There are meetings and classes online, virtual classroom style meetings. And there's this online competition for all the students participating. And at the moment, there are 8 different universities involved across 5 different countries: Ireland, France, Slovakia, Burkina Faso, and the United States. So yeah, that's a little bit about the context and the project itself. In terms of the objectives of the Virtual Environmental Challenge, certainly to develop peer education, to develop the sharing of knowledge and skills from peer to peer. That's very much an emphasis in an international context. And from a multidisciplinary perspective, that is to say that, for example, the students in Ireland are geography students. The students at REN 2 are didactic students. They're language, essentially language students. The students at my school in Nantes, Central Nantes, are engineers. They're engineers. There are environmental planning students. So yeah, very much multidisciplinary, but obviously something to do with the environment is applicable to all of those disciplines. So it works very well, but obviously particularly works well with language teachers in terms of developing their language skills, developing vocabulary, and presenting information that's quite complex in what is a foreign language to those students. So yeah, the objectives, the 4 bullet points there: to sign up students for an internationalization at home experience, to find innovative dynamics to involve students in improving the sustainability of their campus environment. Obviously, most of us are interested in the environment. We're interested in climate change. We're interested in policies or ideas that promote sustainability. So yeah, if you like, you're dealing with a student body that is receptive, certainly receptive to this as a topic, as a subject matter. In terms of skills, or principally skills, yes, certainly to stimulate LSP learning. It is promoting project management skills, presentation and communication skills, working as part of a team, the use of digital tools, hopefully building confidence, etc. All of which have direct application in the workplace. And finally, to involve students in the development of the scheme and to promote peer learning in an international context. And the students, obviously, this is, if you like, a sort of action research project. So there is always feedback coming from the students, and there's feedback and evaluation of the project at the end of the project. So if you like, from year to year, yeah, we're looking for feedback and looking to improve the experience for all concerned, but obviously primarily for the students participating. Okay, project characteristics. Essentially, yeah, it revolves around an online learning space which offers a range of open educational resources, MOOCs, YouTube tutorials, digital docs, Google Docs, digital tools, and not least the digital dashboard, which I will eventually get onto at about 6:30. So yeah, that's the context. It is all online. As well as the competition itself, like the students follow, all the students participating follow a MOOC-based MOOC-based meetings. That is to say that each week they follow this MOOC, Stories We Live By, which is very fascinating. I don't know if any of you know this. This is on eco-linguistics. and this is Professor Aaron Stibb at the University of Gloucester. And his contention is that if you want people to change their attitudes towards the environment, then you need to change the narrative. And he says that if you look at books at the moment, what's the narrative we get about humans is that we're selfish, greedy people who like to consume. If you see that in the media, you see that in economics textbooks, etc. So his proposition is, well, if we can change the language we use, if we can change the narrative, if we can say, well, people actually aren't all greedy and selfish, some of them are caring and compassionate and altruistic, that you'll make more progress with the environment. So yeah, anyway, I'd recommend Professor Aaron Stibb. He presents that MOOC in 9 chapters, so nice little morsels which the teachers, which I'll explain what the teachers do more fully in a moment, the teachers present those MOOC chapters to the participating students. Also very interesting with that MOOC is that whenever Professor Stibb asks his students a question, they answer exactly right at exactly the right time. Yeah, it's marvelous. Must be the effect of the camera or something. Okay, and the articulation of the actual tournament or the competition. The first part is they need to create a logo, which often, believe it or not, involves the planet. And then it goes into the 3 rounds of the competition. So the first round is a 20-minute presentation, a slide presentation where they present their ideas for a eco-friendly campus. That is listened to by an opposing team, and the opposing team at the end can pose questions, and there's a bit of a debate. And there's also a jury of teachers who are also posing questions and judging the quality of that presentation. The second round is what's called a Pecha Kucha. Are you familiar with Pecha Kucha? Yeah. Pecha Kucha, the idea is that you present 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide. So it's a sort of punchy presentation. They were doing sort of half Pecha Kuchas. So they were presenting 10 slides of 20 seconds each, and mainly visual. Slides that are visual. So it's a punchy presentation. And again, particularly for didactics students, using language that is a foreign language for them is a very useful exercise. It's a constant reinforcement and resynthesization of language that they're hearing and using to present it as a Pecha Kucha. And then the final round is the TED Talk style presentation. So again, particularly for language students, this is constantly going over. This is sort of written language. This is spoken language. They're having to listen to the MOOC. They're having to reformulate what the MOOC is saying. So yeah, you're very valuable from a language perspective. In terms of the participants, how am I doing for time? Actually, am I already? Yeah. 6 or 7 minutes, right? Yeah. So in terms of division of labour, all the principal actors, these are the principal actors. So the participants are the students from the different universities who form into teams. So they have to follow the instructions. They have to collaborate in their team with their teachers, participate in instruction related to the MOOC. They have to attend meetings and produce content to produce the presentations. The teachers, so these are M1, these are first-year master's students at the University of Rennes 2. The teachers essentially are coaches. They need to understand the resources because they're actually presenting the MOOC to the participating students. They liaise with their participant team and support their theme, whatever their idea is for their campus. Support the team with production preparation, present chapters of the MOOC to their team, and guide participants towards success. The mentors are M2 students. So these are second-year master's students who in their previous year were teachers themselves. So again, in terms of the project, giving these teachers to be, these are future teachers, it's reinforcing all of these, not only language skills, but reinforcing these skills of being able to organize and manage a project like this, a teaching project. So yeah, it's very valuable for the mentors as well to organize the competition, form teacher teams, facilitate participant teacher teams, communicate general information to coordinators and teachers, identify and promote useful digital tools, create resources, tutorials, template emails, and create an evaluation grid. And then finally, the coordinators are teachers like myself at Centrale Nantes, where I'm working with my ordinary classroom students, communicate general information to the teams, advise and accompany teams, attend debates, act as a competition judge, and give the students some points, give them some points. And there we go. Yeah, the circle of trust there. The VEC manager, this is the person who created and organized the whole project back in 2018. That's Professor Christine Evin of Rennes University. The mentor there, the teacher, the participants, and the country. There's a country coordinator for each country involved in the competition. Okay, so very quickly, yeah, I better move on quickly. There's a blog, the Hypothèse blog, which gives all the information about the project, and it also is a site where you can view the previous editions of the project going back to 2018. And then the dashboard itself, and as it says on the can, both a tool for participants and for the managers. So yeah, it really does help to facilitate for everybody involved in this project. All the actors, be they teachers or students, are really greatly aided by having all this information on a central dashboard. So without further ado, that's just a shot of the blog, and that was last year's winner, entitled Clean All. So yeah, the first tab, general organisation. So yeah, this basically gives a roadmap of how the whole competition is going to unfold, right from the start of the semester to the end. Very valuable, obviously, for the participants, but also for those managing the project as well. Because if you think about it, you're dealing with 8 different universities across 5 different countries and across different time zones. So the potential for chaos and disaster is quite high, actually. So yeah, to have a central dashboard like this, and all the information concerning the scheduling of all the parts of this project is very valuable. This is a useful tab. This is weekly tracking. So for each team and teacher, they are in liaison with their team, and this gives us updates which everybody can view. The mentors, the coordinators, everybody can dip into this and see exactly what the progress is of each team. Very valuable tool because it's highlighting any problems, any difficulties, and those can be quickly addressed. And also you can look at other teams and how they perhaps addressed the same difficulties as well. So again, in terms of sharing knowledge as part of a community of practice, this is very valuable, and very valuable for future editions of the project, of the competition, that you can look back at this and think, well, yeah, there's quite a few people who have flagged this as a problem, so we need to change that for the next year. So yeah, this is a very valuable, the weekly tracking tab. The teams, I've obviously redacted this to protect the guilty. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's even more dull than it otherwise would have been. Yeah, all the information that would normally be on there has been removed. But again, this is all the teams involved, so you can quickly see who's in each team, and their email addresses, and obviously, yeah, it facilitates communication. Many students, obviously, after they've logged on with an email, and once they've made contact with one another, that they then go on to other platforms, and not least WhatsApp, for example, for their communication. The teacher page, again, is for teachers to be able to contact one another. Again, they would enter their emails and then perhaps go on to WhatsApp thereafter. And obviously, yeah, the managers can follow the process of teacher designation and make sure the teams have a teacher guiding them. So, yeah, if you think about it, there is a lot of potential for people to get lost in the machine and to get lost in the system. So it is valuable, this, that the managers can look at these pages and think, you know, is everybody where they should be? Is everybody in a team? Is everybody doing what they should be doing? Are they on schedule? Is it all going to plan? Okay, and then this final page is perhaps the most useful, and it does chime in with what was being said yesterday about curricula not keeping up with new technology, and this page is great, because what students, what teachers, what mentors, what coordinators, what managers are doing on this page, all of them, everyone involved in this project, they're all entering information about digital tools you can use, about relevant articles and resources, and resources specifically related to the environment. So there's a wealth of knowledge on this page. This is obviously a screenshot, but yeah, if you scroll down, there's about 70 entries for digital tools. Again, very useful for teachers in training who are going to be future teachers, that they've got all of these resources, and these are the most up-to-date resources. The most up-to-date digital tools there in front of them. They can see them, and they, again, working peer-to-peer, they can learn how to use these tools and feel confident with them. So yeah, I think it does, to a certain extent, address that issue of us not keeping up, if you like, but the students amongst themselves, with this shared knowledge and shared skills, can keep up to date, and perhaps even analog teachers like myself can eventually get up to date. Okay, and I think that's me done. Perhaps I've run over a bit. I'd just like to say, as James Rowan said yesterday, what was it that he said? That it's acceptable to be able to say, I don't know, if you've got any questions, But we have questions at the end, I imagine. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. And now we have Jody with correlation of online applications to the effectiveness of feedback across design disciplines.
Yeah.
And let's find the next French connection.
So how do we get this to, oh, okay. All right. Okay. I know. We have that person left. How many of you are design educators? Architecture, design, anything relating to design at all? We got one? Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'm Jody. I'm from Syracuse University School of Design. I have kind of an interesting background because I started in science, geology, and then I became a science teacher. So I got a master's in education. Became obsessed with architecture and how it impacts, especially school and teaching learning environments. And so went into architecture, and I had so many questions. Kept going, got a PhD in design with a very strong emphasis on education. It's at the center of everything I do. But mostly what I do now is I look at design education questions. And my story has included a lot of these kind of online aspects over time. There's other trajectories that are wrapped in there as well. But what I'm about to present to you is going to give you a little bit of a background on my journey through kind of understanding, getting closer to answers to the questions that I've started with. Let me ask you, how many of you are educators? We have at least 2 here. Okay, all right. So at least I will be like, right. Okay, so what I'm going to present today, and I should mention I teach now in interior design. I teach master's students in our MFA design program. I teach design studies. I'm also just kind of a chameleon. I teach creative problem solving. So that's another area of research I do, is I look a lot at creative skills training and creative thinking. All right, so I'm really interested in this digital intersections of education, especially with design. And this is not forwarding. Is there a trick? Aha! Press 3 times. That's it. So in my world, project development looks like this. this is very standard for any kind of studio-based kind of learning. And I equate this kind of experience of, instructors, mentors, students, all talking about work. I always summarize it as talking, drawing, and poetry, right? This is like the traditional studio. Oh, see, you're in design. Okay, got one design. So do you agree? Talking, drawing, pointing, right? This is really what it looks like. And so, and this is a photo I took years ago, because I've been working on this for many years now. I started asking, what does this look like in, like, when you take something that's so talking, drawing, pointing, it's so tactile, it's so personal, there's so much involved. What does it look like here? So I started asking that. And I started collecting data, because at the time I was in a PhD program. This was not my dissertation, but I just couldn't let it go, so I kept going with it. So it kind of became this little side project. And I started collecting information. So this is a little bit more recent than the time I'm talking about, but this is data I've collected throughout this trajectory of work, looking at, like, how do students that are in design, how do they want to be critiqued? Because critique and feedback, it's the beau arts way in design. This is how we do it. This is how we teach students how to be critical and engage in discourse and really learn how to be good designers, understanding how do you negotiate constraints, right? How do you make good design decisions, right? This impacts of those decisions. So what they told me was, I wanted in person, I wanted during studio time, with classmates, private, with professor, casual discussions. These were all pre-COVID. And this is so more information that came out of just collecting data over time. At one point I said, how well do online tools, and again, pre-COVID, how well do online tools support your project development, right? It's remote. And at that time, I mean, okay, not such a good, I don't know, kind of an interesting in the middle response. Going a little further, I wanted to know, okay, well, like, what's your experience? And pre-COVID, it was very little. Like, notice we're missing things like Zoom, concept board, mural, Miros. These are all very mainstream now. And what we have down here, this is what came out of it. None, no previous experience. Email. I mean, 7 years ago, this is how students would try to get feedback about their work remotely. They would email you, like, I have a question, and they try to explain it. Learning management systems, again, you're like, that's weird, because, like, that could be Canvas, it could be Blackboard, it could be, like, whatever. Google, very, like, vague. What is that? Google what? VoiceThread, and then Skype. So you have all these apps for online feedback, online critique. And I became extremely interested in this one. Again, this was beginning like 2000, maybe 14. I started getting really interested in VoiceThread. And for a while, I called myself the poster child of VoiceThread for the University of Minnesota, because that's where I was at that time. And I just became completely immersed in it, because it was the one program that really could do that, seemed like it could do that talking, pointing, drawing. And I was looking a lot at, like, what do we know about what good communication looks like? And so I started looking at sources that have not only explored this, but have tried to understand what does it mean in an online environment. And a lot of resources that really emphasize, well, it needs to be natural. Well, what is natural? It means it has nuance. You use adjectives. It's authentic. And I am standing in front of you right now, and I'm making up words, and my construction of sentences is a little crazy, and I'm waving my arms around and moving my body. That's all nuance, right? It's natural. I'm being myself, right? And research tells us, like, that makes communication better. And you can just have that. We also know that descriptive feedback is really valuable. Students actually learn more when descriptive feedback is verbalized. I was looking at this like, wow, okay, that's really important to know. Like, if you could just say it, right, instead of type it, like, that's actually makes a difference. And not only that, that particular researcher that includes online, right? That includes verbalized online feedback. And then there's other researchers. This particular group looked at how verbalized, again, how it conveys more nuance, and actually learners are 3 times more likely to consider including the feedback into the development of their work. So I was really interested in that, and I was really fascinated by the fact that VoiceThread looked like it could give everything that I needed in terms of that, and also what my students had been telling me. So this is not about VoiceThread. This is just kind of, if you've looked at any past publications of my work, there's a lot of VoiceThread in there. This is part of my journey though, right? So I've done a lot of studies with VoiceThread. Essentially, it's a space where you can talk, you can draw, you can point, it records what you're drawing when you're talking, and with a lot of good positive reviews from students. So some of the previous studies I've done, this is just kind of an overview, like what are the attributes of this program and what are the enhancements. So sorry, it's small to read, but it says attributes. Okay, asynchronous. It's an asynchronous program. So what does that enhance? Through my studies, they've said it improves the fluency and the depth of the exchanges. Like, wouldn't show me so happy about that. Transcends time constraints, which is awesome. Transcends geographic constraints, and then what does that say? Oh, facilitates conversation. All right. And then we have other attributes: the drawing, the audio recording, the social, and there's a lot of other things too. So there were positives and negatives, because part of my past studies have also asked for them to compare, right? Like compare VoiceThread, and some of these are speaking to more recent studies where now they are a little bit more aware of other tools out there. Like we're not like in the, Ice Age, like 10 years ago, where they communicated mostly through email and Google. So positives, right? These are some of the things they said about VoiceThread and some of the negatives. And what I've been looking at since really 2021 is, interestingly, when you're looking at, like, for instance, positives, they are talking about attributes. And I'm really interested in that. Some online programs have specific attributes, right? Social, you can talk, you can draw, you can revisit. It's similar to, you can audio record, whatever. Comments. And then looking at that idea of comparing to other apps, I started seeing those conversations come out. It's like, well, this better can't be on Zoom. It's like, oh, wait, what are they saying? Is Zoom better? Like, what are you really saying? And then the hate here, it's like other platforms are better. It's the worst online platform ever. So I really started paying attention to that. And so I started a new study, just a continuation, really. It's like the same journey. But looking at, like, well, what makes a program, what makes an app suitable for critique, right? Which applications effectively facilitate the feedback practices that both students say they want, but also that are signature to design practice, right? Because there is a lot of research on like what makes signature feedback practices per discipline, right? And everybody's discipline has something out there about that. So for design, it's really specific. It's also raised questions like suitable for who? How does that suitability differ across disciplines? I'm trained in architecture, but I teach in a lot of other design disciplines, and I don't teach in some disciplines. I'm not in fashion design, right? I'm not a comm design teacher. I'm not, industrial design. So I have a lot of questions about like this idea of, how do you make feedback effective for design in general, but also maybe it's specific to whatever discipline you're in. So that inspired this study. Again, I had to do a new IRB approval for it. It launched in 2021. It's been very hard to get the sample to grow, but I finally just stopped it, and I'll talk more about why. But I ended up with 107. After scrubbing it, ended up being 98, and this was all pretty much a digital survey. So, all right, just general protocols. Like, what am I asking? These are just some sample kind of paraphrased questions. like, hey, you had to choose two. You had to choose two applications to support your remote development of design work. What would you choose? How about this? Rate the value of these programs. So I basically had this whole thing. It's like, all right, as I said, skip it if you don't know it, right? So Zoom, you know it? Cool, rate it, okay? All right, voice check, you don't know it? Skip it. And then I said, is there anything I didn't, did I miss something? Provide me, tell me what it is and give it a rating. So there was a lot that I had missed I had to add on. What apps support online project development? Which ones do not? What application features are the most helpful, the most effective? And then are there benefits to using asynchronous versus synchronous? So, because those are attributes of these programs or these apps. So just a sampling of some of the questions that have been asked over the course of my project. So data scrubbing, again, it had to remove some participants because duplicates are just, you can always get that participants like 0, 0, 0. So you're like, okay, you're out. Basically opened up the survey, didn't care, no value, so you're out. So I ended up with the distribution across disciplines. I basically had to cluster some. It just, because graphic design and communication design, you talk to each one of those, like, no, I'm not that, and I'm not that. But it's like, as an outsider, you're together. Okay, so you're comm graphics. So I had to combine things. If you said I'm an interior designer, I'm an interior architect, we're gonna put you together, right? And yes, that is one of the limitations I talk about later. But so I grouped them. This was kind of the distribution, and also I did collect a lot of other data, like where are they, how old are they, what year of study. So a little bit of the sample. So let's get into it. Preferred attributes. When you're asked to pick two, this is, again, the latest data that I've collected on this. This is what it looks like. Zoom, obviously, in the lead. Then you have the Google Suite, and then you have Miro that pops up there. And then I had to get really nerded out. I know statistics, but I'm like, I don't work on a lot of projects, so this has been a little difficult for me. But yes, I had to create contingency tables, and I've had to work a lot with statistical modeling, and work with this chi-square tests and these coefficient tests, and basically figure out what's going on, because I actually want to know, is there a relationship? If you're in architecture, is it predictable that you're going to need this app and you're going to need those attributes? I want to know, right? So I need correlations. So this one worked out really well. And I will say that if you were in my earlier talk about AI, just because I'm only slightly confident with my skills in doing statistical modeling and also just choosing the right tests. After I did all this, I ran everything through ChatGPT and I said, here's my data, here's what I did. Is there any problem with this analysis? Is there a different statistical modeling? Is there different tests I should have done? So I've had to do a lot of checks, on to make sure. And so far, everything's good. So according to AI. Okay, so digging in further, so this was kind of the initial sheet, and it definitely, it's hard to read, but when you see something that says you rejected your null hypothesis, that's good. That means that you have a positive relationship. Well, it depends on what question you're asking, whether or not it's good, but it's telling you you have a relationship. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then I was thinking back to, okay, what were the things that were rated high? Who was my sample mostly? It was mostly architecture and interiors. So I started digging in further. I clearly had a significant correlation. This is just some nerded out information about some of the tests I ran that verify, it's like, yes, the p-value you wanted, the low 0.05. I got 0.034, awesome. That's telling me things are good. And then moving forward, I even started cutting off. So this is isolated to Zoom, Google Suite, Miro, and Concept Board. And then I just kind of kept digging in, and then this was the final one. So very, very strong relationship. It's saying that if you are in architecture and interiors, which are sister disciplines anyway, they're saying that the students right now, they need these, they want these. These are what they want. This is what they're saying supports remote development of their projects. That's kind of important to know, right? So if you're an institution and you don't offer one of these, or you're not incorporating it, you're kind of like missing. You're basically saying we're going to miss out on this opportunity to enhance how you're getting feedback remotely. Okay, application features. I was really excited about this one, and it didn't go anywhere. And I think this is something I would like to go back to, because I had to kind of come up with all these attributes on my own. And sifting through the data, it's like, do you have real time? Is it mobile friendly? Is it free? Does it, yada, yada, yada. And this one needs more work still, because I'm not confident in how I've been crunching the numbers. For instance, what this shows is that my fee coefficient is at no relationship. But then when I did the chi, it's just really close. It needs a different model. According to ChatGPT, it's suggesting I run some different models, and I'm going to need to do them through Python, and I might need a research assistant for that. So we'll see. But I'm excited about this one because it's kind of saying, it's kind of really close. Like it might even mean going back to my data and like regrouping things or redefining, like what am I combining? This definitely needs more investigation. This was also really interesting. They were asked to rate the value of each of these. So this is an example of this is what it looked like for all of them that gave it a 5 out of 5. So Google got 5 out of 5, obviously the most frequency, and then Zoom. These were the ones that got 1 out of 5. So it was about then that I was like, oh my gosh, I've been studying VoiceThread. I've been studying VoiceThread up to now, and check it out. It's like down here, like rating low. But I had mostly been studying VoiceThread with interior design students. And now I'm like, wait a minute, I'm looking at a cross sample across a lot of design disciplines. So again, it's piquing this interest. It's like, oh my God, I'm onto something, right? Not all programs are good for everyone. So looking just at Zoom, this is how Zoom rated across all the design disciplines. This was how VoiceThread rated across all the design disciplines. I was like, it just, oh my gosh, everything I know is just, in the trash, but no, it's not. But, obviously it stops you for a minute. You're like, I don't think I'm asking the right question yet. All right, so to figure out what the ratings really mean, I obviously had to just look at some basic descriptive statistics. One of those is looking at just the average rating, the mean rating. Zoom did the best. Google was right behind it. The lowest ratings were actually Concept Board, Padlet, and Skype, which is interesting because Concept Board, you'll see later, is highly correlated to certain disciplines. And then also looking at the spread of the ratings, and why that's important is that can indicate like a lot of variability. So VoiceThread, Concept Board, and Miro, they had larger IQRs, which suggested more variance like in satisfaction in terms of that. So kind of interesting. I have been playing with this modeling using the Mann-Whitney test, and I need to abandon it and go to a different one. This is definitely in progress. It's really like variable, the information I'm getting. It's kind of suggesting that VoiceThread, Concept Board, and Mural are significant to architecture and interiors, but again, this needs more work. All right, synchronous versus asynchronous. Kind of interesting. These are my hypotheses. Needs more modeling. It kind of is pointing towards no significance. However, however, it indicates that there could be, so I need more modeling. This is the summary of my findings right now. It just kind of goes through everything. And there's also some qualitative data in there that I've yet to really dig into. Strongest finding is this. There is a statistically strong relationship between architecture and interior design and preferences for Zoom and Concept Board. Why? Well, I'm still figuring that out. And here's kind of towards where I'm at now. How do you figure it out? one of the questions I asked a while back is like, if you had to design your own program that's appropriate to your discipline, this is like stuff that they said. And I would kind of like to just repeat my study all like across the board and ask this question again. Maybe isolate architecture and interiors just specifically, just because I think I have access to those. It's like a very convenient sample. But I think that this could begin to tell us why, right? The whole study could just look at like, if you had to say enhance concept work or enhance Zoom to better serve, you know, but I think that there's a lot here. They have some really cool ideas. So a lot of limitations, obviously, sample size, selection bias, interpretation. There are some dichotomous variables that I've had to interpret into number data so I can crunch. Obviously, there's room for errors with that. This is cross-sectional data that looks at a snapshot at a very specific point in time. Obviously, so much has changed. Another reason why I just need to start over. A lot of confounding variables, looking at a lot of apps, a lot of disciplines. Again, I want to tighten that up. Kind of like I was doing with VoiceTrack with just interior design. And then I just like blasted it open to everything. And now I need to do this again, right? And then obviously you're dealing with something self-reported data, self-reported data from students. So, you know, you always have to take that with a grain of salt. So that's my project. If you are interested in any of my past work or current work, please contact me. It is a moving target.